everybody. Good morning. First 1-5 meteorologist Melissa Meeder here, joined with Greg Bennet.
Yeah, hanging out with it. Hey, how was the morning newscast there, Melissa?
The morning was a bit busy, if I do say so myself, especially because we have so much going on, from rain and thunderstorm activity, severe storm potential, to blizzard warnings tonight and high wind warnings and snow. There's a lot to cover.
There's literally every season in like the next 24 to 48 hours.
Yes, it is going to be a lot. And we're starting with rain and thunderstorm activity first. So let's go ahead and take a look at our radar. As you can see, we're starting to see more widespread rain occurring at this time, kind of situated kind of along state line south of I-70, but also between about Maryville and the I-35 corridor southward. If you look down towards the southwest, we're talking about in Garnett and Ottawa, seeing a little bit more heavy rainfall down to the southwest versus what we're seeing in the metro at this time. So that's heavy rainfall. That's eventually going to be coming if we take a zoomed out approach too, and I put on our other radar so we can give a little bit more leeway on what we could be seeing in the next coming hours. There's a lot of rain coming. It's going to continue coming. For the most part, any severe weather that's been occurring has been off towards the east, towards Columbia, but still thunderstorm activity is going to be possible throughout the morning and then eventually into the afternoon. So I think by the time we go through the morning, widespread rain and storms will be likely, heaviest in the morning, and then we have that potential for strong to severe storms both in the morning and then again in the afternoon. So Greg, if you want to talk about too that severe weather threat for today.
Yeah, it turned out kind of interesting because what we were seeing yesterday morning at this exact same time frame that we were literally discussing the severe weather potential, right, for today, was that we were looking at to get into more impactful rain, maybe some heavy downpours and thunderstorm activity around 6 a.m., 7 a.m., and 8 a.m. Now, don't get me wrong, we've seen some wet weather out there. It's been moderate rain, maybe a couple of very weak thunderstorms, but as we were showing you on a radar system, it's now a bit more further south. It's been slower to get back up into our neck of the woods here. So we're obviously backtracking on the time right now. It could be more late morning that we get to some of those heavier downpours and more thunderstorm activity, which again ensues us getting into that level 1 severe weather risk. I definitely have an opportunity here for high wind and hail development. I think that's going to be more of our morning scenario for any kind of intense storm activity to develop through the area. Now, as we move on into the afternoon, we got a couple of things that are happening for us. One is we're anticipated to actually get back into the 60s. There's a little bit of quote unquote warm air lift. It's minor, but there is some assistance there. And then, of course, we've got the strength, the force of the low pressure system itself. We call this a forced lifting mechanism. It's allowing that energy to lift into the atmosphere forcefully by the actual storm system itself, and it creates thunderstorms or maybe even a severe weather potential. Now, that's where I believe, and Melissa, of course, has been monitoring this as well, that we could maybe see that increased opportunity for some rotation. It's still very, very low, okay? It's a low scenario, but if we're going to see anything like that get involved in our area, it's more likely to occur towards the afternoon where we're trying to peak with warmth of the day in general. But it also has to take into consideration where this low pressure system wants to get involved with us. We could usher in some cooler air quicker and maybe drop those temperatures a little bit. So it's definitely something we want to monitor, which of course would lead to what you're seeing out west. And man, Melissa, I mean, here we go, talking about thunderstorm activity, warmer air, breezy conditions, and we've got snowfall on the back end.
You know what? That's right. And you know, it is the fight between spring and winter at this point. And as we get into the later hours today, that's when we will see the blizzard warnings go into effect. So that starts at 9 p.m. That now includes the metro. Last night, that included the northwestern areas. It's synced down a little bit down towards the southwest now. So we're talking about the metro being encompassed in this 9 p.m. tonight and will continue until 5 a.m. on Wednesday. I will note, too, if you notice some purple down to places like Garnett, Ottawa, that's a winter weather advisory. That goes in effect at 8 p.m. tonight. So between 8 and 9, we will see these warnings go into effect. And on top of that, Greg and I have been talking a lot this morning about the high wind
Yeah.
that we are going to be seeing. And Greg has been talking about it a lot. And if we see gusts, which we will likely see gusts between 50 and 70 miles an hour,
For sure.
starting late tonight into the overnight hours, and that can cause a lot of issues in terms of a lot of things too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, first and foremost, let's put some perspective on this for a quick second. 70 mile per hour wind. A 74 mile per hour wind is a Category 1 hurricane. Right? So we want that to kind of sort of sink in for you. We actually have a true equation that we can use in order to figure out how much wind it takes to knock something over. And when it comes down to us, in particular, like your average 175-pound human being, it's about a 69 mile per hour wind. We're talking about getting up to 70 mile an hour gusts. So this is the kind of wind that could absolutely knock you off your feet. Now, if we keep that wind blowing for a longer period of time, now we're not talking long, maybe 30 seconds, maybe a minute and a half. Well, now we're talking about trees. We're talking about maybe some weaker branches or dead branches on your trees that just need that right wind to come down. And now you've got yourself significant debris. You've got projectiles. Even your kid's tricycle that you might have left out in the front yard or the backyard may not be there when you wake up tomorrow morning because of these gusts coming in between 50 and 70 miles per hour. Now, Melissa, if I'm not mistaken, not everybody is 175 pounds and like 5'9".
Yes, I would move laterally around 52, 53 miles an hour.
There you go.
So for some people, it is a little bit less. So, if we're thinking about us possibly being moved laterally, well, think about everything else that's smaller than us. And I will note, too, you're talking about your tricycle.
Right.
Tricycles.
Yeah.
My family notoriously had issues with our trampoline.
So
if you do have a trampoline, things like that has a larger surface area, wind could get underneath, those can easily blow away too. So any objects that obviously you can't bring your trampoline inside, can't fit in the garage.
That's a true story.
You need to kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Secure them to the ground.
Yeah, I mean, staking them to the ground will be best, but we're not talking about those little yellow plastic stakes.
Yeah.
You really got to have one of those stakes that goes down about a foot and a half. That'll really make sure that trampoline is secure, because it's a wind sail. It's one big, massive wind sail, and it doesn't take a lot of wind with that much surface area to really lift that entire trampoline right out of your backyard.
Yeah, and if we think about cars too, we're going to be seeing windy conditions in the morning tomorrow, along with the blizzard conditions we were talking about. If you get, a crosswind, things like that, that is going to pull your vehicle. So please be very careful through the night tonight. I mean, even later this evening, we'll start to see gusts to 35, 40 miles an hour.
Right.
But tomorrow morning is really when we're going to see the strongest winds come out of the system. So on top of the wind, of course, there is the snow, the blizzard conditions that we're expecting. So if we kind of track this out, the blizzard conditions start at 9 p.m. I will say blizzard warning, will start at 9 p.m. So we are likely still going to see rain and thunderstorm activity, but off towards the west, there is the snow. As we go through the late evening hours, by 11 o'clock, midnight, that's when it's going to start to cross kind of the state line. Along those lines, transferring from rain to snow. This continues to occur as we get snow more likely through the overnight, and then 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning rolls around, most of us seeing snow at that point. This continues to then push off towards the east, 7, 8 o'clock, still seeing some snow lingering in the eastern half of the area. And then by 9, 10 o'clock, still kind of hanging around a little bit, but this should pretty much be wrapped up by noon.
Right.
With that being said, the windy conditions will remain after the snow is done. So if any snow does accumulate, as Greg could talk about a little bit too, because he talked about it this morning, the snow that we could see accumulate is going to be a little bit different, because we are thinking more of not so much a lot of snow, but when we think about wind and low visibility and things
yeah.
like that, that's when we start to see those blizzard conditions.
You know, so this is our situation, right? When it comes down to a typical or a standard blizzard, by definition, you're talking about moderate to heavy snow shower activity on top of wind sustained at 35 miles per hour for at least 5-minute intervals, right? Now, the key term here is moderate to heavy snow shower activity. We're not necessarily dealing with heavy or moderately heavy snow shower activity. It's light to moderate snow showers, and the accumulation is reflecting that for us, ranging anywhere from what we've seen is down to about an inch around the I-70 corridor, all the way up to about 3 inches. So we're going to range it between 1 and 3 inches for you that we're going to accumulate snowfall, which overall, if you really think about it, ain't a lot of snow. But when you tack on 50 to 70 mile per hour gust and sustained winds that are likely to be 25 to 35 miles per hour, now we're getting into low visibility from blinding snow. The accumulation is just enough for us to make that criteria for the definition of a blizzard warning. So this is something we're taking really serious here. Obviously, crosswinds are a huge concern for us. The I-70 corridor going to be an issue. The northern side of 435 and the southern end of 435. Big concerns there, especially if we're talking tractor trailers trying to make it to the warehouse empty in the morning to load up. They're just big wind sails on those major interstates. That's going to be a problem on its own. But now you tap into visibility that's going to range anywhere from a mile to a quarter of a mile.
Yeah, especially in the morning.
That's a problem.
Yes. And I will note too, when we talk about the snow, temperatures will be dropping through the evening into the overnight. So how much snow will actually stick to the ground?
That's the other thing.
Is something that is still unfolding at this point, because, you know, temperatures right now, 50s and 60s. However, by the time we get to after midnight, we could be hanging around the freezing mark, that sort of thing. But our ground has been warm for a while.
Bingo.
So if that said, we could see a lot of snow falling, but maybe not a lot accumulating at the ground. However, we could still see 1 to 3 inches of snow come from the sky, causing those visibility issues.
Yeah, it's called a form of radiational cooling. What happens is we take the surface of the earth and it takes that solar radiation from the sun, it absorbs it, and it wants to release it overnight and into the early morning. When it does that, we're keeping the temperature warmer at the surface, i.e. the ground, the concrete, the sidewalks, which would ensue melting that first kind of round of snowfall that comes in. So yeah, there's an opportunity that, sure, we're talking about 1 to 3 inches falling out of the sky, but maybe you only see an inch, maybe you see only 2 inches, because that first kind of round melted off a bit. So yeah, absolutely there, Melissa.
And I think too, it's important to note that heavy rainfall is possible today. So
Absolutely.
When we think about how much, we talked a little bit about the snow, but how much rain could we see with this system, especially if we think about today into tonight before the snow starts to form. So if we take a look at our potential rainfall totals now between, let's say, 9 p.m., because that's when we maybe could start to see that transition from rain to snow, we're looking at anywhere between about 1/2 of an inch to 1.5 inches of rain in many areas. 2+ inches could be possible. So this is a lot of rain to occur in kind of a short period of time. And this is not including the snow that will come after it. That's likely going to be a wet, kind of heavier snow.
True.
Because the atmospheric profile at that point. So keep in mind that, you know, ponding on the roads, there could be the potential for some localized flooding if we do end up getting underneath a thunderstorm that brings a lot of rainfall with it. So there are a lot of things that are going to be happening over the next 24-hour period. So it's something that you're going to have to stay up to date with, stay updated with us. We'll continue to, you know, first warn you for any information. But I think talking about our temperatures might be easiest to do on the 7-day forecast because there is so much going on. So high temperature today, 60 degrees.
Not bad.
You know, not too shabby. That's why we're talking about rain and thunderstorm activity.
Yep, absolutely.
But once we get into the overnight, as you can see, dropping temperatures later in the evening, upper 20s for our low temperature. So that's when we're talking about we're going to fall below freezing. Some sticking can occur with this because temperatures will be below freezing. But between Tuesday and Wednesday, we drop from 60 to 35.
That's a huge, that's like Denver, Colorado on a daily basis. That's nuts.
Yes. And then we think about the winds on top of that. So it's not going to be feeling like 35.
Oh, goodness, no.
So we're, when we think about 50 to 70 mile per hour wind gusts, I can't even do that quick mental math in my head of what the wind chill could be, but it's not going to be great.
There's going to be a significant bite to the air.
Yes.
It's most likely going to be somewhere within the teens. Obviously, low 20s is a given here, but most likely we'll be pushing closer to around mid to upper teens with a 35-degree high temperature, not including, that morning low, which is going to be in the 20s. I mean, that could be single digits easily with wind gusts at 50 to 70 miles an hour.
Yes, but there is relief in sight.
Yes, absolutely.
Thursday night into Friday morning, we see another chance for a little bit of rain, snow, but temperature-wise, low 40s on Thursday, which is well below our average, but it's better than 35 in windy conditions. The 50s are back Friday and Saturday, and then Sunday, 60 degrees, sunshine, and we will also see sunset after 7 p.m. because we are jumping forward.
Oh, why'd you have to say that, Melissa?
Well, I'm losing an hour.
I'm losing an hour.
I know.
I'm a sad meteorologist.
That makes me sad for one day.
And then, valid.
And then I'm okay with
seeing
the sun when I, in this case, I'm working for you this morning.
That's
I'm working
right.
with you. So I'll see the sun at all points. But, next week, I'll leave work around 7 o'clock.
It's not
the sun
bad.
will just be beginning to set.
That's nice.
Dark. And then, Monday, it's nice, and we're 71.
Man, look at that. There's spring right there. Spring trying to spring into action a little early,
yes.
Right? What is it, March 20th, right? March 20th.
Yes, March 20th.
So
that's that's our whirlwind of weather that we're going to be having over this 36-hour
She just summed it up. Did you hear that? She went, and that's our weather. Yeah, I think we're all going to be doing that sigh for sure.
And you know what? Please be very careful on the roadways today.
Absolutely.
Tomorrow, use caution. Make sure you're, sticking with us for the latest forecast details, as we'll get a little bit more information on our dropping temperatures, things like that, as we go through the day today. So thank you, Greg, for letting me impose on you this morning.
Oh, you were phenomenal. It was great. I love to be just on the sidelines there, just being a cheerleader. It was good. It was good to have you on, and we're excited to have you for the rest of the week.
Oh, thank you, Greg. All right. I hope everybody has a wonderful day, stays dry, and uses that rain gear today, snow gear tomorrow.